Welcome to Kindergarten Unit 2, Forces Interaction. We're going to go ahead and talk through the big ideas of this unit. So the first big idea for this kindergarten unit is the greater the push or the pull, the more force that it goes. So if you push an object harder, it's going to go farther, and if you pull an object harder, it's going to go harder. Obviously, heavier objects are going to take more force. So things like that are connections that students can make to this standard. So the standard is plan and conduct an investigation to compare the effects of different strengths or different directions of pushes and pulls on the motion of an object. The other big idea is that intentional forces can be used to change the motion of an object. So we can, if we want an object to go a certain direction, we have to apply a force in that certain direction. If we want to go a certain distance, we have to apply enough force to get it to go that distance. So, for example, the direction or the amount of force are two ways that we can modify the amount of force that something has. So the standard is analyze and determine if a design solution worked as intended to change the speed or direction of an object with a push or a pull. So having a marble roll in a certain direction or having it stop or change directions are activities that students can look at. For more background information, there is 4 videos in the back of the unit plan that you can watch on the disciplinary core ideas, and those are all by Paul Anderson. And Paul Anderson from Bozeman Science has a great job of explaining concepts, so those are great background videos for you and your team to watch as you begin to prep for this unit. There are 2 essential questions: what causes an object to move, and what happens if you push or pull an object harder? With those essential questions, students will hopefully launch into some investigations that will lead them to the enduring understandings that they can walk away with. When we look at integration of ELA and math, there's a lot of opportunities for read alouds and shared reading. So there's several of those integrated texts throughout the unit. And in math, there's a lot of opportunities for using non-standard measurements to measure distances as things travel, and then create simple graphs with students. When we look at the texts we're going to integrate, some of them are nonfiction texts and some of them are picture books that connect students to the concept, or other ones are just engagement stories that really hook students into some learning. When you look at the kit materials provided, you get a Matchbox cars, straws, plastic cups, and marbles. And then with that, students need things like ramps, index cards, and then one of the key things is 6 feet of foam pipe insulation cut in half. And those make roller coaster tracks, and we'll look at that a little bit later. So this is an example of the roller coaster tracks that students will be making. So half pieces of foam insulation, and then they can roll a marble down the track, have it land in the cup. When we look at the formative assessments, there are several opportunities to formatively assess your students throughout the unit during the investigations and different activities. When you look at the assessment, there's a push and pull assessment. It's a short multiple choice type assessment. There's also card sorts that are great ways to assess. When you look at the unit plan, there's a lot of green showing that there's a lot of hands-on investigations throughout this unit. So a couple of things that you'll be working on: pushing cars a certain distance, called pushing cars and hitting the target. There's some simple investigation stations that you can set up. You could also move those into your center time if you wanted to. There's some building of some ramps with students. There's some push and pull read alouds. There's some other engaging stories. There's looking at pushes and pulls on the playground. There's a few activities with blowing things like cotton balls or other objects to show the amount of force it takes. There's a big box investigation where students pull a container and then put it on wheels to show that it's easier with the wheels. There's sorts, and then finally there's the roller coaster picture perfect unit, and that one they're using the foam insulations to build roller coasters. Foam insulation roller coasters, and they're going to roll the marble down and have them do different things. And that also talks about the concept of gravity with the book I Fall Down and the dropping races. So hopefully that gives you a good flow. Again, make it work for your classroom and kind of fit things in as you can make them work. So let's look at this big idea. The greater the push, the more the force. So there's a couple activities. The one on the left is this one called hitting the target, or pushing cars, where students are pushing cars on a long track and trying to get it to go to a different color. So this is on butcher paper, but you can set that up in tape increments on the floor, however you want to make that work for your classroom. There's also these stations on the right hand side, soda bottle bowling, sorting things with a Venn diagram, pushing a pulley or pulling a pulley, and making cars and ramps. And again, we talked earlier about straws, so various investigations with how far you can blow an object and the amount of force it takes to do that. The other big idea is intentional forces used to change the object. So that's where that big box investigation comes in. So using making things easier or harder using wheels, and talking about how we can make simplify the amount of force it takes. There's also the roller coaster design challenges, where students are designing the roller coasters to take the ball around the loops. So that won't be one you have to model with and we'll let them explore, but kids that really seem to enjoy that activity. And then the dropping races are when they're dropping things to show that they fall at the same rate. So you again will have to probably support your kindergarten students in those two tasks, but and know that they can explore and have fun with those concepts of gravity and changing force. Finally, the assessment, there's some multiple choice type questions and then some card sorts. So we're looking at what objects do we push, what objects do we pull. There's a lot of times you can talk about we do both. Like some objects like a shopping cart, we sometimes will push and we'll sometimes pull it depending upon which direction we're moving. So there's good conversation with talking about both. So there's a lot of opportunities to bring this into the natural world and we'll let students explore. So I hope you guys enjoy this unit with your students. I know that they'll really engage in the concept of forces in motion.